and welcome to Gardening 365 31. Day 1 of the raspberry wine. Now this really is a firm family favourite. Me and Claire both love this. It's very light and it ferments and finishes really quickly. So I put in there 4 or 5 pound of frozen raspberries. They're out of the garden, and in that I'll put 12 pints of water, 2 crushed Camden tablets, and I'm going to leave for 24 hours and I'll show you what I'm going to do tomorrow. This could possibly even be ready for Christmas. That's how soon it sort of all finishes, and it clears lovely. Raspberry wine, my favourite, and Claire's. Day 2, and I've just dissolved 6 pound of sugar in 4 pints of water and added that to the mixture, and very shortly the magic is going to begin. Now before I start any wine, I always use an hydrometer. That's 1080, so the finished wine will be about 10.5%. So it's not going to be a really strong wine at all. Like I say, really light, really refreshing. 10.5% raspberry wine. It'll be lovely. Now I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons of yeast to a starter mixture. 1, 2. I'm going to put a little bit of yeast nutrient in. The recipe doesn't say, but I'm just going to put a little bit in anyway. Doesn't go amiss. So I'm just going to put 1 spoonful of yeast nutrient in. And then I'm just going to finish off with a couple of spoonfuls of pectolats. I've only got a small bag of this. I've done with a bigger container. Don't know how easy I'm going to end up getting 2 spoonfuls. In fact, I might well just put the lot in. Yeah, put the lot in. Go for it. So there's my starter mixture. And all I'm going to do now is give it a really good stir. It's changed colour. It's gone quite a horrible looking colour at the moment. I'm going to top that up to about halfway and leave it for about an hour, and then I'll add it to the main mixture. Oh, here's one I've had from earlier. So just top it up to halfway. Not too much, because that yeast will work, and it'll work quick when it happens. Okay, and leave that out at room temperature for an hour or 2. I've left the yeast for about an hour. It's frothed up, and now I'm going to add it to the main liquor of the raspberry wine. 2 days now since the fermentation started on the raspberry wine. Stirring each day. You can hear the yeast working. Just that little sss. Okay, so that shouldn't take that much longer, believe it or not. It's only 10% and a strong yeast in there, so it shouldn't take too long to ferment that. Mushroom update. I'm going to uncover them and have a look and let you guys see where we are at the moment. Here's the very first one I did. Absolutely covered in white growth. The second one I did, doesn't look like there's a lot there until you start to look a little bit closer, and there's plenty of growth starting in there now. And then the very third one I did with mushroom stalks, at the moment I'm not seeing a lot of anything, and I'm hoping that one will at some point start to spawn and grow mushrooms. The hyacinths, the one's starting to come into flower now, pink flower. The amaryllis has started to show a lot more sign of growth recently, and the second amaryllis that I brought in from outside, that's grown that little shoot in less than a week, so that's doing really well. Okay, I give this thing, whatever it is, a bit of a chop, and that's looking a little bit better. It does die back sort of in the winter anyway, but that's not looking too bad. The paper white daffs, we've got a couple breaking the surface. Whether they'll be ready for Christmas, I very much doubt. The ginger, I've had a bit of a disaster with the very first ginger.
We choose to
Grow ginger.
domesticate and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills, because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and therefore as we set sail.
I don't know if it's a bug killer I put on or I brought it out of the propagator for a few days, but something hasn't done that well to that plant. But my other ginger's looking superb, and the turmeric, still no sign of shoots, but that one there looks like it's about to explode with something in it at some point, so I'm not sure what that is. And the green plant, it's not a green plant, it's a peace lily. I found out its name. Look at the colour of those leaves. Fantastic, healthy looking plant now. Okay, looks great. The hibiscus has moved into the jungle area because the big yucca is now gone. I've now just got the smaller of the two yuccas. And the castor oil plant, again, look at the colour of the leaves. Absolutely fantastic colour. And the bird of paradise is being guarded by bucket. And that whole middle section has grown since it arrived here. So very happy with the bird of paradise. A few of last year's early potatoes. They're a bit small for eating, so I kept them for seed. So what I'm looking for on these now is some little green sprouts coming out, which are known as chits. I have to be careful how I said that. And as soon as they start chitting, in theory they can be started to be planted. So the process continues into 2021. In the background, behind the greenhouse and the shed, what you're seeing there is crab apples. That's how many crab apples are on that tree this year. It always has a lot of crab apples, but I don't think I've ever seen it with that many crab apples on ever before. And the spider plant on the balcony's had enough now. We need to bring that inside so it's a bit warmer. So that'll be one of my first jobs, to bring that in and get it into the greenhouse where it's frost protected. The grass in the garden's looking pretty green. There's the pear tree that I put the fertiliser in, the bricks round, on Garden 36530. In the distance, we've got the wildlife pond, plenty of water in that at the moment, and the little splash pond I made towards the end of the summer. Nothing on the raptor table at the moment, and not a lot happening elsewhere in the garden. There's the two wild cherry trees there as well. There's Fallower garden, looking very wet. Fish pond looking great. I'm going to come back to the fish pond in just a couple of minutes. And the rest of Claire's garden onto the patio. And it should be a bit happier in our porch. So, Paul Barrett asked me a question, and it was on one of the YouTube videos that I've uploaded. And the question was, how do we protect the pond from herons? Okay, and I'm going to try and give you 2 or 3 little answers here, Paul, that might help you. I'm not sure, because we have had one suspected heron attack since we've had our pond, but that was unconfirmed. Just our fish disappeared, and it could well have been herons. So first suggestion is one of these unlikely fellas. Now whether that works or not, I haven't got a clue. Some people say yes, some people say definitely no. He's looking a bit worse for wear now, all of the paint's run off him, but if it works, it works. It's there just in case. Now the next one is by design. Okay, what we've done with our pond, and I'm not saying this was perfect. Our pond is about that deep. The reason why that's so important is that depth gives your fish plenty of room to dive away from the herons. Herons probably wouldn't go down that depth of water. So as soon as any predators are around, the fish will always sink to the bottom. So by design, get your pond as deep as you possibly can. Okay, or just make a very deep area in the pond somewhere. That's possibly your best protection from herons. Also, another idea is to net your pond, but then that makes your pond look very unnatural and, to be quite honest, quite ugly. So if possible, avoid netting. Another one is, this might be an expensive option, buy fairly big fish. Now those fish, some of them are about 9-10 inches big. I'm not saying an heron couldn't get one of them down him, but the bigger they are, the less likely the heron is to take them. But herons will take big fish, I promise you. Hopefully, Paul, that's gone some way to answer some of your questions. But the real answer is, if a predator wants your fish, livestock, whatever, it will try everything it can do to get them. So it is a constant battle. Sorry, I couldn't be more positive with the outcome. But those are hopefully some ideas to help you. If you've got any questions whatsoever, ask Nigel. I'm not saying I'll answer all of them, and I'm not an expert in any way whatsoever, but if I can help, I will always try and help. Okay, and I'm going to start a section soon called Ask Nigel. Now, just because it's winter doesn't mean we stop our composting process. So if you look there, we've got 4 bays: compost 1, 2, 3 and 4. Compost 1 and 2 are the 2 bays that I'll use first next year. 3 and 4 I'm still filling up. Okay, so those will be the latter bins. Now your composting should be a 12-month process. So the stuff that I put in early last year, I'll be in bed 1 and 2. And the latter stuff in the year, I'll be in 3 and 4. So just because it's winter, don't stop adding to your compost bin. It's just the things that we're putting in have changed a little bit as the seasons have gone on. So in the bin today, I've got ash out of our wood burner, and in the bottom of there I've got some kitchen scraps as well. They're going in. Now, as you've seen earlier in the year, I try and mix greens and browns as much as I can, but just basically get it in there. It will all rot down, especially if you're giving it 12 months to do so. So in between the ash we've got some lettuce. I'm not sure why that's in there, because the ducks could have had it. We've got some potato peeling. We've got some kale stalks, some eggshells, some kitchen paper, a little bit of cardboard, and that's toilet rolls. So it's a good mixture of sort of everything in there. I think those are some roots from the leeks. So just general kitchen waste plus some wood ash. And your kitchen waste would have been your greens, and the wood ash would have been your browns. So we've even got a little mixture going on there. Unfortunately, a little dead grass snake. You can tell what it is from the underside. That's no slow worm. Shame, but we know they've got snakes here. Morning. Saturday, and my raspberry wine is now 3 days old, 3 days fermenting. So what I need to do now after 3 days is separate the wine from the pulp. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do now, and I'm going to use the old-fashioned way of straining it, as simple as that. And then I'll put the strained liquor into demijohns. And what to do with the waste? Compost. And possibly just under 2.5 gallons. Okay, so I'll put it into demijohns. A little bit of froth on the top, that'll drop down to the bottom. The good news is it's fermenting. And I've got a different type of airlock on the other one, but I've seen that one working too. And run out of demijohns, so I've used a old cider bottle. I've got the cap just tight enough to hold it in place so it can still release air out of there as well. So that's me raspberry wine. Hopefully as soon as that's fermented out, we'll get that in bottles. Maybe ready for Christmas, may take a little bit longer. Well, I'm off to the football. The weather's not great, I might as well. First time since March. concludes Gardening 36531. Thanks very much for watching. Keep inviting those friends. Hopefully you enjoyed everything you've seen. And hopefully you're going to join us next week for Gardening 36532.